There will be a moment in your life when everything that normally works simply stops. The plans, the habits, the way you usually calm yourself down. And you'll realize with a kind of quiet shock, I can't control any of this. The only thing left is me. That moment can break you, or it can become the exact doorway the Buddha pointed to under the Bodhi tree when he saw with absolute clarity what you repeatedly think you eventually become. Tonight, let's walk through that doorway together, because if you stay with me, you won't just hear 10 Buddhist tips. You'll feel how a completely different way of living starts from one simple shift. You stop trying to win the world, and you start learning to master the one mind that creates it for you. And the real twist, self-mastery, isn't harsh. It isn't cold. It's not about becoming a stone. It's about becoming deeply, quietly alive. You unfollow accounts that feed your anxiety. You limit the news you consume. You spend more time with people who speak of ideas of growth, of kindness, instead of constant complaint. You make your room simpler. One corner becomes your temple, a cushion, a candle, a small reminder to come back to yourself. And you notice something small but powerful. The less noise you let in, the clearer your own inner voice becomes. One night, the monk asks everyone to write down 3 questions. What truly matters to me? What kind of human do I want to become? What am I willing to give my life to? The room fills with quiet scratching of pens. You hesitate at first. Then the words start to spill out. You don't write money or status. You write about presence, about creating, about loving well, about understanding your mind, about leaving people more peaceful than you found them. When he collects the papers, he doesn't read them. He simply says, "Now, the real work begins. You must start saying yes to what you just wrote, and no to what steals you away from it." You start noticing the difference between busy and devoted. Busy is your calendar flooded with things you secretly don't care about. Devoted is when even a simple day feels meaningful because it reflects your deepest priorities. You reorganize your days. You give real time to practice, to learning, to rest, to the people who truly matter. It's not perfect. Sometimes you fall back into old patterns, but now you can see the difference clearly. A day lived close to your values feels quiet and full. A day lived far from them feels noisy and empty. This is one of the quiet secrets of self-mastery. Peace doesn't come from the outside finally calming down. It comes from you finally aligning the inside. As months pass, a new habit forms. You keep a small notebook. Every day, you write a few lines. What did I learn today? Where did I react unconsciously? Where did I respond with wisdom? What do I want to try differently tomorrow? It's not about judging yourself, it's about staying awake. The monk once told you, a flame needs fuel. Your spiritual life needs learning. The moment you stop learning, you stop truly living. So you learn from books, from teachers, from your mistakes, from silence. You realize growth doesn't just come from big moments. It comes from how you handle tiny, ordinary situations. The rude comment, the delayed bus, the loneliness that visits at night, the temptation to procrastinate. Each one is a classroom. Each one gives you a chance to choose. Do I act from habit or from the person I'm becoming? This is where your life quietly pivots, not in dramatic breakthroughs, but in small, repeated acts of awareness. One rainy night, you sit with the monk and ask, will this ever end? Will there be a day when I'm just done, finally wise, finally calm, finally perfect? He laughs warmly. You are not a project to be finished, he says. You are a river. As long as you are alive, movement is natural. The moment you think I'm done, you stop seeing the places you still hurt people, and you stop seeing the places you still hurt yourself. He leans forward. Do not fear being a beginner, he adds. Fear closing your heart to new understanding. So you stay a student of your mind, of your reactions, of the patterns that keep repeating. You start to see how often your suffering came not from reality, but from the stories you added on top of it. This shouldn't be happening. I can't handle this. I'll never be okay. Pain was real, but the extra story, that was optional. And for the first time, you feel a strange kind of freedom. You do not have to believe every single thought that appears. The real test comes on a day you don't expect. A loss, a betrayal, a diagnosis, a sudden change, something that truly hurts. This is not a minor inconvenience. This isn't my latte was cold. This is the kind of event that splits a life in two, before and after. The old reflexes rise immediately. Why me? This is unfair. I can't survive this. Your chest tightens. Your throat closes. Tears come. In that raw place you remember a teaching the monk once shared. Pain is part of being human. Suffering grows when we resist the pain, or when we weave a story around it that stabs us over and over. You do something new. You don't pretend you're fine. You don't spiritually bypass. You don't throw quotes at your own heart. You sit, you breathe, you let the grief move through you in waves. This is painful, you whisper to yourself. This hurts, and it is here. You don't argue with reality. You meet it. Slowly, you notice the difference. Instead of drowning in a storm of why, you feel each emotion rise and fall. You cry, you rest, you reach out for support. And somewhere underneath all that movement, there is a small, steady space inside you that is simply watching. Not cold, not distant, just awake. Resilience, you realize, is not the absence of pain. It's the capacity to stay present with pain without abandoning yourself. One evening, long after most people have left the hall, the monk invites you to stay behind. He pours tea. You both sit in silence for a while. Then he says, "You've learned to watch your mind, to guard your time, to grow through challenges, to choose good influences, to say yes to what matters, to keep learning, to stay grateful, to make peace with suffering." He looks at you with gentle seriousness. "Now the question is simple," he says. "Will you live in harmony with what you know?" You realize something. Knowledge is light, but without action, it never becomes warmth. He asks, "What are your deepest values?" You answer slowly, "Honesty, compassion, clarity, courage, presence." He nods. "Then your real practice," he says, "is to let these values guide your choices, especially when it costs you something." He gives examples. When it's easier to lie. Can you stay honest? When it's tempting to close your heart. Can you remain kind? When fear tells you to stay small, can you take one brave step anyway? When distraction is everywhere, can you choose to be here now with this one breath? You understand. Self-mastery is not a performance. It's not pretending to be enlightened. It's living as consistently as you can from the deepest truth you've discovered. Some days you'll do it well. Some days you'll fall flat on your face. But every night you can ask, where did I live in alignment today? Where did I move away from myself? What tiny adjustment can I make tomorrow? And with each small adjustment, your inner and outer lives line up a little more. Imagine this. You wake up one morning and your chest is already tight. Messages, deadlines, expectations, notifications. Your day feels like a storm that started before you opened your eyes. You reach for your phone. You scroll. You check. You answer. But the more you do, the more you feel like you're disappearing. On the outside, you're busy. On the inside, there's this hollow space growing like a room that nobody ever visits. You try what you usually try: music, food, more work, distraction. Nothing lasts. And then, in the middle of that silent panic, a strange thought appears. What if the problem isn't my life? What if the problem is how I'm meeting my life? That question is where our story begins. One day you wake up and realize something almost shocking. Your external life is still imperfect. People still disappoint you. Plans still change. Unexpected problems still appear. But inside, there is a calm center that you didn't have before. Anger still visits. Fear still knocks. Sadness still rolls in. But they don't own the house anymore. You watch the thoughts rise and fall like clouds. You protect your time like a sacred resource. You walk into challenges knowing they will train you. You surround yourself with people and ideas that help you grow. You say yes more boldly to what matters and no more kindly to what doesn't. You treat every day as a chance to learn. You anchor yourself in gratitude and presence. You accept pain when it arrives, and you refuse to feed unnecessary suffering. You keep returning to your core values like a traveler returning to a home that is always open. This is not a perfect life. It's a mastered one. Not mastered in the sense of control over everything. Mastered in the sense that you finally learned how to be the steady heart at the center of your own storm. Before we end, feel this. Right now as you listen, your mind is shaping your future self. Every thought you tolerate, every story you repeat, every choice you make from this moment on is voting for the person you are becoming. You don't have to wait for a better past. You don't have to wait for the world to behave. The path of self-mastery in Buddhism is not a promise that life will stop being unpredictable. It is a promise that you can become the kind of human who moves through uncertainty with dignity, clarity, and an open heart. So ask yourself quietly, where will I start? Will I watch my breath for 5 minutes tonight instead of getting lost in my phone? Will I say no to one thing that drains me so I can say yes to one thing that matters? Will I speak one honest sentence where I usually hide behind politeness? Will I offer one small act of kindness with no expectation in return? These are not small steps. These are revolutions in disguise. Because the moment you choose them consciously, you are no longer just surviving your life. You are sculpting it from the inside out. If this journey touched something in you, let this be more than just another video you finish and forget. Let it be a turning point. Begin with one practice, one change, one honest decision. And if you want to keep walking this path of Buddhist wisdom and inner mastery, come back here. There is so much more to explore, from meditations that hold you in your darkest nights to stories that reveal the quiet courage inside you. For now, take a breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice this exact moment. This is your life. This is your path. And step by step, thought by thought, choice by choice, you are becoming the one who walks it with peace. You find yourself one evening in a small, almost empty hall. Just a few cushions on the floor, candles, a faint smell of incense. An old monk sits at the front, not glowing, not dramatic, just unbelievably still. When the room quiets, he looks at everyone and says, "You are all trying to fix the movie on the screen, but the true work is here." He taps his forehead. "And here." He touches his heart. Everyone waits for some complicated teaching. He only asks one question: who is in charge of your mind? When life gets loud, you think of the last argument you had, the last time anger took over your mouth before wisdom had a chance to speak, the last quiet night ruined by anxiety, rehearsing conversations that never even happened. Who was in charge then? The monk continues, self-mastery does not mean you never feel anger. It means anger doesn't get the final vote. You don't let every passing thought define who you are. He invites you to close your eyes. First step, he says softly, Learn to notice the storm without becoming the storm. You breathe in, you notice the noise in your head, you notice the restlessness in your body. He doesn't ask you to fight it, he just asks you to see it. This, he says, is the beginning of true victory. Not over others, over yourself. Days pass. You keep coming back. At first, your mind resists. Sitting still feels useless. Your thoughts shout, "I don't have time for this. I should be working. This isn't fixing my problems." Until one evening, the monk says a sentence that lands like a stone in clear water. The biggest illusion is this: you think you have time. The room goes still. You suddenly see your life as if from above. All the half-finished dreams, the conversations you plan for later, the way you waste hours on things you don't even care about, then say you have no time for the things that matter. He continues, time is not loyal to anyone. You don't own a single future minute. You only borrow this breath. You feel a small shock move through your chest. Not fear, clarity. If time is this fragile, how much of your life can you really afford to spend on autopilot? The monk doesn't tell you to panic. He tells you to choose. Guard your hours, he says, like a gardener guards fertile soil. Do not plant weeds. Do not let others plant them for you. You think of your day, the endless scrolling, the mindless yeses, the tasks you accept just to avoid disappointing people. He gives you a simple practice. Tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself, if today were my last full day on earth, would I be proud of how I spent it? If the answer is no, tomorrow is your second chance. Weeks go by. You start saying no more often, not out of anger, out of respect for your own life. You stop checking your phone for the first hour of the day. You sit, you breathe, your mind still runs. But now you notice it much faster. Something subtle is changing. You're not calmer because your life became easier. You're calmer because you stopped letting every wave push you around. And right when you start feeling proud, life tests you. A project fails. Someone you trusted disappoints you. A plan falls apart in ways you didn't see coming. The old you would have collapsed, blamed the world, escaped into distraction. This time, you remember the monk's eyes. The mind is everything. What you repeatedly think, you become. You feel the pull to think, I'm a failure. Nothing works for me. I knew this would happen. But a new voice appears inside. Or, this is training. You sit with the frustration instead of running from it. You let the anger burn without throwing it at anyone. You notice the story your mind wants to tell, and you ask a different question. If this setback was a teacher, what is it trying to show me? Immediately the discomfort shifts. It's still there, but now it has meaning. You see your limits, your patterns, your blind spots. You realize challenges aren't proof. that life hates you. They are mirrors showing where you still have work to do. The monk had warned you. Stop chasing a life without difficulty. Chase a mind that knows how to meet difficulty wisely. Now you understand. One evening you arrive earlier than usual. The hall is quiet. The monk is arranging cushions. He looks up. "Come," he says. "Tonight, we look at your environment." You frown. "Like my room?" He smiles. "Your room, your feeds, your conversations, your friends, your mental diet." He sits beside you and asks, after you spend time with certain people or certain media, do you feel lighter or heavier, clearer or more confused, more kind or more bitter? You think of that one friend who always gossips, the channel that fills you with fear, the constant drip of outrage in your timeline. It's heavier, you admit. He nods. A wild animal can injure your body, but the wrong influence can poison your mind. He doesn't tell you to judge anyone. He asks you to take responsibility. You are not a victim of influence, he says. You are a curator. You choose what gets to live in your head. Slowly, you start changing things.